Hello, this is President Mauch here. I'm here today with Joyce Pigge. She's been a faculty member at Bethany College for 50 years now. It had been our intention to have a huge celebration weekend this weekend, but with the COVID-19 pandemic, we're all staying healthy and staying safe by staying apart. We do plan to have a future celebration for Dr. Pigge, but right now I thought I would just interview her and talk about her 50 years here at Bethany. So what made you choose Bethany?
Well, I was a graduate student at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, and I was looking for a job. I thought it would be in a junior college, frankly. I graduated from a junior college at home. And the person in the department, the faculty member of the department who was responsible for connecting graduate students with possible jobs, handed me this flyer and said, I think you ought to apply for this. So I did, and I came out here, never been to Kansas before, and I came out here and it was graduation weekend because they put me up. I stayed in Anamar, and I met two students the night before, and they had stayed around because a friend was getting married, and they were seniors the first year I was here. And they're still friends to this day. It's one of the nice things. So I remember coming into this building for interviews, and I don't know what day it was, but it must have been a Friday because offices were open, I'm guessing, but the graduates were here lined up getting ready for practice. So I had the interviews, and they offered me the job, but I played it cool and said, well, I'll go home and think about it. Well, I knew exactly what I was going to do because it was a job. And of course, I liked the people I met and all. I'm smiling because I'm thinking of a story that I always tell, but it's true. I won't name who, but there was an employee of Bethany that I met, and I was introduced as the person who's being interviewed to teach political science, and this person said, oh, you're a Republican or a Democrat? And I said, well, which one should I be? That was my response. But anyway, I don't know whether you want to cut that out. It's a true story. But anyway, that's
very good. Well, thank you.
That's what brought me to Kansas, and I moved here then in August of 1970.
Been here ever since?
Been here ever since.
Yeah. And what do you love about Bethany?
Well, over the years, I've often been asked by parents, typically, who have prospective student in my office, and they'll say something on the order of, why have you stayed at Bethany? Why are you here? Something along that line. And my response is almost always the same. It's the people. It's the people that I have shared the social science building with as colleagues, but more importantly, it's the students. That's what causes each of us to get up every morning and eagerly look forward to coming to campus, because it's the students that we interact with.
I would definitely agree. There's that sense at Bethany that we're all doing this for our students, and it's always nice to watch them come in as freshmen and then leave as seniors.
Well, and that's another thing that I always say, that it's a privilege that we have to work with these students and literally see them grow, and sometimes physically, but more tellingly, how they mature and how they develop as human beings. And we always hope that we help that along when we don't do something inadvertently to detract from that growth. But it's a privilege to have that opportunity to, as a small place, to get to know students so well and to see the people that they are becoming as they mature from 17, 18-year-old know-it-alls. No, I'm just kidding. To reflective, thinking adults. It's a real privilege.
I would agree. And so can you describe maybe a happy memory or two you have here at Bethany?
Well, it's kind of hard to select out some. I feel very fortunate that I had the interest, I'm not going to say the skill, but I had the interest in athletics such that the first women's athletics program began in the sense that it lasted in the spring of '71. And then that was when basketball started and volleyball started in the fall of '72. And it would eventually happen at Bethany because it had already, McPherson, Kansas Wesleyan, Tabor, and then most of the state institutions had women's programs in the very nascent beginnings. So it would have happened eventually, but it would not have happened for those women who were here in 71, and then 2, 3, and 4, maybe even 5, and then so I feel very glad for them that they had that opportunity to do something that some silly person thought they knew something about sports too. And George Stevens, who was he wasn't the athletic director yet, that was Keith Rasmussen. But George and I came the same year in '70, and we started basketball first, as I said, and I asked them if it'd be okay, and they said, sure. I mean, they could have said no, and then that would have been the end of it. So Keith and George are also to get great credit for permitting, if you will, this to be, because we had no budget, there was no salaries, our first uniforms in basketball were old men's uniforms, and of course we had to wear t-shirts under the jersey tops and all. But that was like all women's sports at that time. No budgets, no salaries, and volunteering time and all of that. That was the nature of women's sports in the very beginning, in the '70s.
Much different now. So now I know you only live up the street, and I know that we will still see you here at Bethany frequently, but what will you miss maybe about the day-to-day working here?
Oh, it's the students. It's not seeing the students regularly. It's we have 2 student teachers from the department in the fall, and I've said that I want to go and see them student teach a couple of times because they've asked, and I would want to anyway because you work with them and all. So no, it's the daily interaction with students, and also lunch in the caf.
You can still come.
Group of faculty and staff, and those were always nice respites of the day. And yes, I plan on coming to the campus and having lunch in a while. If nothing else, I need my pizza fix because the pizza at the caf is the best in town. So
it is very good. And so, Joyce, you have been really not just a professor here and not just involved in athletics, but really a leader on campus to move the campus forward. Do you have any advice for faculty and staff that are here, or even some of our students, about what it means to take a leadership position at a place like Bethany?
Well, what it takes is a willingness to give up time and energy with little to no concern about one's personal time. It's putting the students first and what is most potentially beneficial to them. And you know, I don't know this. I just think it's true that students. It doesn't take much effort on the part of faculty and staff for students to feel very appreciative of that initiative in interaction. because they're not looking for a parent. I mean, they're not looking for family, but I don't think it takes much at all for students to pick up that people care. And I think that's a very necessary and almost intangible attribute or skill or level of caring that any faculty or staff person might have, that students realize that they care. I think of more than one of the people who work in the CAF every day at lunch. They know the students' names, they have conversations with them, and they don't do that for any other reason than they care, and they enjoy also the interaction with students.
I think you're right. And if, obviously we're always trying to recruit new students, what would you say to a student who is maybe in high school right now about why attend Bethany? Obviously the caring faculty and staff, but are there other reasons?
Well, it's I would speaking of the 300 plus students that we get and we have from Kansas, and the vast majority of them coming from smaller towns, smaller high schools, if not tiny high schools. And I think Bethany is a place that, because of our smallness, because of the way in which our faculty and staff interact with students in and outside of the classroom, that this is a place that they can find their self, without sounding too profound, finding their calling, their next steps in life. Because here the students have the opportunity to grow and to be challenged, to be called to justify, to explain, to think, and that's all part of the maturation process. As I've said to prospective parents and students, you can go to a large institution and they have much to offer, but you can't hide at Bethany. There's always someone who's around, who's available to kind of know what's happening and available to be reached out to, or to reach out to the student. I'm not the only one. I can remember, shall we say, finding a student when they're supposed to be in class, but anyway. And not all students will want that, and not all some there are students who want to just be a part of a crowd, and that's their absolute right to feel that way. But and Bethany would not be the best place for them. But for many, many students, this is an excellent choice for the opportunity to be involved in many, many different activities of your choosing, and to hopefully find yourself open to the opportunities for personal and intellectual growth.
Thank you. So now, what do you plan to do after retirement?
Well, right now we're all experiencing what it would be like to retire, I think. Wasn't quite wanting to learn it this soon. I've said that I'm looking forward to not having a schedule. But I'm finding out now we still have a schedule. You make it yourself. It's not always made by somebody else. But anyway, life is never going to return to totally the way it was before. So I want to go see my St. Louis Cardinals play as frequently as possible, whenever that might be. And do traveling to see high school friends and college friends. So beyond that, I really haven't planned and haven't made any firm plans. Even before all of this happened, I was just going to play it as it came, you know?
It's not bad. Well, I want to thank you on behalf of everybody here at Bethany for your 50 years. You have been a personal inspiration for me in what it really means to be dedicated to a life of service, especially in service to our students. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You ready?
Where's the clapboard?
She's so glad I roped her into this.
Yeah.